/askreddit. What collection did you have as a child that would have been worth a fortune now had your parents not thrown it away? South African coin collection that my older sister threw away without consulting anyone. As a foreign money collector, this hurt me. I'm sorry she did that, and I hope that there wasn't too much she threw away. And also, throwing away money? Happens more than you'd think. I see people with leftover cash from foreign trips just trash them because the effort to go get it exchanged into local currency is more than they'd get back due to the exchange rate and conversion fees, etc. And some people just stupid and don't know the value of things. I had the complete collection of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures. I packed them into a box and put them away, then later when looking for them I couldn't find them. Asked my mother. Oh, those, I threw them out. You weren't playing with them anymore. That's when you throw out the guest towels and fine china. You weren't using them, you never use them would be my case. I never technically owned it, but I got to see it once. My grandfather's comic book collection. He would be 92 if still alive. It's in a chest in the original family home. Inherited by a hoarder who will probably lose it all someday. Honestly, better than that is the huge luggage trunks the family brought to the States when moving from Czechoslovakia in the 1800s. They are in the same attic. Why do hoarders always inherit the family home? Hoarding must work like gravity. The more stuff you have, the more stuff you get. I might not understand gravity. My mom had a collection of signed Beatles records that she threw away after she converted to Christianity because played backwards they summoned the devil or something. For years I was hoping to inherit it when I grew up. All I think it summoned was poverty. I met a lady who was a flight attendant on their first flight back to the UK from the US. They signed magazines for all the flight attendants. She had it appraised about 20 years ago and it was worth $10,000. I had to read your comment 5 times to work out why the first commercial flight from US to UK was so significant to have such a high value for the flight attendant's signature. Nearly all of the first 24 editions of virtually every Marvel series, from the Fantastic Four to Spider-Man, including the Amazing Tales in which he was introduced, to Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Basically all of them. At a comic book store I was once looking at some collector's editions of those comics priced at about $1,500 to $2,400. I said to the clerk man, I used to have all of these. The clerk, whom I'm sure was Matt Groening's model for Comic Book Man, without even looking up said in a bored voice, do you know how many times a day I hear that? Lots of original Star Wars toys. They wouldn't be definitely used but still. Same man, now I'm gonna grow up and become a dumpster truck driver. They actually earn a good amount though, at least in US, around $100K per year in Australia, much more in mines. So my uncle actually collects Star Wars. Long story short, he has a mental condition, receives government aid but can still work a job, night crew, stocking shelves. He has an insane collection. Helped him and my grandpa, his caretaker, move recently, filled a 12 by 15 foot unit filled to the ceiling of boxes. 95% new in box. He estimates paying over $50,000. He's mid to late 50s, I've this lifetime on collecting them. Can't ever drive, poor social skills, so he spends all his money collecting. Hey, at least he has a hobby. It's good to have such stuff if you don't have social skills, otherwise in that age he can overthink stuff. Yeah, he loves the stuff. So he went into a coma at the age of 13. Came out after a few weeks with impaired brain function. He can walk, talk, cook and all that jazz, but complex tasks are too much for him. He's never been able to drive. Extremely socially awkward. He's a nice guy, makes funny fart jokes, picks his nose. He's basically a 13-year-old stuck in a man's body. He loves Disney so much that when I turned 18, I got a car and worked a not 9-to-5 job, So he bought me the deluxe Disney pass, $1,000 plus, and any time he wanted, he'd give me a call to go to Disneyland. I'd pick him up, we'll get there, split up, he has a phone, meet up for lunch. So we had our own time apart, then we'd meet up for the rest of the day. Great memories. He's still alive, living with my grandpa at an old folks home. He says on his deathbed he's gonna open all the figures and play with them, haha. I had a huge collection of Magic the Gathering cards, all in mint condition, dating back all the way to Alpha, that I collected as a young kid. My psycho mom decided that I had too much stuff that I enjoyed and threw out my collection and a bunch of other stuff. Sorry to hear you lost at least $100,000, I'd be pissed too. Based on what I knew I had, it's almost $1 million plus. That's just the cards. People that got disinterested all gave me their cards, so I had a ton of really expensive duplicates. About 40 Indian arrowheads collected on my grandparents' farm for years by myself and my grandfather, and full sets of baseball cards from 1969 to 1980. My mum decided to toss out all that junk when I moved out for military. I don't understand the instinct to do that. Put it in a box and shove it in a closet. That's where the stuff was, in a box, in a closet. Mom, God bless her, decided to turn my room into a guest room and thought that box was just junk. Cleaning out the room is perfectly reasonable, assuming it's junk is also reasonable, but not freaking asking you do double check it's in fact junk makes me freaking livid. My parents literally divorced over this. My mum threw away one too many things without asking, and it was the last straw. One I remember was a ton of old magazines about wildlife that she found buried in a chest of drawers. Dad was away on a hunting trip. Mum gathers them all up caked in dust and throws them in the recycling. None of them had been touched in years. Dad gets back from his trip a week later. The first thing he does is make a beeline for the chest of drawers and starts rummaging around in it. Mum, what are you doing? Dad, I saw this rare snake on my hunting trip. There's a photo of one in those old magazines I had in here that I want to show. Night 199222019. Mum, you have got to be freaking kidding me. I never met my grandfather on my dad's side. He died about 2 years before I was born. He didn't have many possessions, and had 8 kids, so other than a couple of photos, all my father got from him when he died was his pocket knife. He had that knife for so long the blade was worn down to half its width from being sharpened so many times. When I was about 30, that knife became mine. The only thing I had from the grandfather I never met. One day I looked in the rubbish bin, and saw my grandfather's knife there. What? There. Freak. I asked my partner why my knife was in the bin. I threw it out. What? Why? It's just an old knife. That's a 60-plus-year-old knife, my grandfather's knife, and the only thing I have from him. Well, if it was so special, then you shouldn't have left it in your drawer. We're no longer together. Not quite the same thing, but in 1997 I asked my parents to reinvest some money that was set aside for us by my grandfather, about $8,000 after tax, into Apple stock. They were correct to tell me no, but I never quite put the thought away. If they did and were smart enough that we kept it, not counting reinvested dividends, we'd have 349,127 shares today. At the current share price, $98,453,865. How my life could be different if my parents threw sanity to the wind and listened to their middle school-age son about what he learned in class. It will be fun to bring that up every reunion or whenever someone talks about money. This reminds me of when a co-worker wanted me to buy something called Bitcoin at the preposterous price of $27 a piece. Of course I didn't waste my money on that. I was 2 clicks away from buying 100 BTC when it was $50. Stopped because I didn't fully grasp it, and $5,000 was a ton of money for me at the time. Probably would have lost it all during the Mangax hit show anyhow. Man. One time a friend asked me in about 2013 if he should invest in BTC. I told him no, that shit's stupid. In 2017 I made a public post apologizing to him. All these responses are the reasons I keep all my son's stuff. He was a 90s kid. I have a big house with no one in it, so I have a storage room, and I figure, why not? If it can earn me a few brownie points for being the parent who didn't throw out all her child's possibly valuable stuff, I'm in. I have virtually nothing from my own childhood for various financial reasons, and my husband was one of those who always bemoaned the loss of various childhood things that were thrown out by his mum, so I think it's important to not stack up one more card against myself by being that mum. Whenever he's ready, I have all of his video game systems with all of their games and boxes, Pokemon cards, which are really mine now. Hey, Street Sharks, Power Rangers, Superhuman Samurai, Beetleborg, Dragon Ball Z, and Star Wars, Star Trek stuff. Okay, admittedly I'm really attached to these things, but if he wants 'em one day, they're his. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the gold, and everyone for all the upvotes. I am humbled and honored. I had every single Beyblade released in the US until I went to college and my mom gave them away to a worthy cause. Turns out she dumped them in the trash. The man who drives the garbage van told me about them and asked me if he could take them home for his kid. I agreed anyway. My brother had a bunch of first edition Pokemon cards that he spent over a year collecting. Mom took them away for getting in trouble at school, and they were never seen again.